I'll start with this question. So it's called Paragon Health. Fucking love the name.
Thank you.
Because that's immediately what brought me here. As I saw Paragon, I was like, I don't even care about the gym itself. I just want to see because of the name.
Thank you.
So why build this? What's the reasoning behind it? What brought you here?
So, kind of a long way to go about the simple answer is, when I first started out in the fitness industry, 15 years ago now, I kind of always had the dream of opening my own place and kind of running things the way that I wanted to. And then, 5 or 6 years ago, kind of ran into some less than ideal circumstances in the place that I was working previously.
For sure.
Essentially got let go from the gym that I was working at before this, and kind of decided to take the plunge at that point, that it was time for me to kind of like
to do your own thing.
Shit.
You needed your own shit. What like when I came in here, immediately the vibe I got was not technically CrossFit. It was more along the lines of functional fitness, right? Is that kind of the space you fill with Paragon?
I would say that's a pretty accurate description. We get a lot of like comparisons to CrossFit, and there's some CrossFit places, right down the street from us.
Yes, for sure.
We have a lot of like a mixed variety of clientele. So we have people, as young as 9 or 10 years old. We have all the way up through, I think our oldest client is in her 90s. So we have
that's awesome.
That's
really good.
So we have a really wide mix, athletes, adults. So
Wow. Oh my gosh. And then, so with your 90-year-old though, like, what's some tips you could give somebody trying to train like an older population person? That's a side question, because immediately said 90. I'm like, I don't think I've ever known somebody who trained somebody that old.
So the particular client that I'm talking about, she comes in 3 times a week for personal training, and she crushes her workouts just like anybody else would. So I mean, kind of the number one thing that I would recommend is we train everyone as if they're kind of athletic in general. So we kind of start with an athletic-based program.
That's cool.
And then we make modifications down. So we scale down from an athletic program versus trying to scale up from a quote-unquote like general fitness style program.
Not necessarily done nowadays, man. Really not truly. I think maybe there's like this mixture where people think they need to be like athletes. Right. They think they need to do that. And then, if you got a trainer at Planet Fitness, generally that's the trajectory, is you're trying to train them up rather than scale down. Yeah,
exactly. Like we think that, everyone kind of deserves to be able to, get into a deep squat position. They deserve to have the endurance that it takes to, kind of enjoy everything that life has to offer, and not be treated like as if they're fragile, or as if there's something wrong with them, or as if they're, kind of incapable of the things that they want to do. Like, we'd rather assume that people are capable of those things and then scale down from there. Is
that the problem with personal training nowadays, outside of what you guys are doing? Do you think that's kind of the rhetoric that you've got these issues that we need to fix?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a really common issue in personal training in general. It's something that CrossFit does actually really, really well. But in personal training, I think there's a kind of underlying assumption that like something's broken, something needs to be fixed, someone's fragile, and so someone needs to be like handheld, their way through every program that they come in and execute. Whereas we want to make the assumption that people are not fragile. People have the ability to adapt, recover, and improve. Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that about CrossFit until recently. I kind of bought into the idea that it's going to injure you. It's going to cause problems. There's all these issues with it. And talking to the people who do it, prescribe to it, it is so not that at all. Like, it is probably the most inviting, amazing atmosphere you could ever be in. And then naturally, if you have a good coach, all the beautiful things come from that.
For sure. There's good and bad. Like, there's great CrossFit boxes. There's less ideal. There's great CrossFit coaches, less ideal. I think like a thing that CrossFit does really, really well that we've also tried to do is provide the community, like you mentioned.
That's
right.
So like
the inviting, kind of encouraging, motivating community is something that people are always looking for.
All these people who have good ideas like you do, they always seem to understand that there's essence to like the environment,
for sure.
Just anything, and physical things like the way it looks, the color scheme, and all that shit, and the fun you bring. So maybe adding fun to fitness is
absolutely
something that needs to be there more than it is now.
Yeah, and they've essentially like gamified fitness, right? So they've made it something that's competitive, something that people can get involved in and feel like they're part of a community where they're like taking part of something. And that's something that we've tried to definitely, take from the CrossFit idea, is that like people are coming to be part of a community. They're not just coming to quote unquote like work out.
Yeah, so true. And you said you've been doing this, what, 15 years, you said?
Yep.
Where were you? So you were at a corporate gym.
Yeah, and I've been all around this area of near Cleveland, Ohio, primarily in this area. But I've been in personal training. I've been in small group stuff. I've been corporate. I've been in a bunch of different wellness environments. But the small group and the personal training setting has always kind of been my calling.
So it's mainly, so you guys do personal training one-on-one as well as a small group stuff, I guess.
We do, yeah.
Kind of a stupid question, because I imagine looking everywhere, it's like, no, they just do one-on-one.
Right.
You have the space for so many different things.
We do, yeah. And so specifically coming out of COVID, we've kind of changed our business model a little bit to where we have separate pods within the gym. So we have multiple areas for multiple different training sessions, where we might have 2 small group sessions going on and 1 personal training session going on.
Just for COVID consideration and everything. Yeah.
That was kind of how it started, but we've held that kind of going forward, because it tends to be a really good way to have each session be kind of like self-contained, where you have a coach and you have all of the equipment that you need for any session, kind of all within your pod.
What an interesting method to adapt to COVID. Nobody's ever really given me that. Everybody has the changes that they've made cosmetically, cleaning, all the sprayers or whatever. But it's funny, I've never heard of something that somebody used to adapt to COVID, but then turned into actually a viable training option.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of become part of our business plan going forward, is like, how can we maximize the space that we have? Well, we can kind of integrate each pod so that we have maybe 3 or 4 different coaches on staff at a time. Each coach can have 3 or 4 people that they're coaching at a time. So COVID has been an interesting,
a weird thing for sure.
But it's been good for us in general. It's been a way for us to improve and grow as a business.
It's how did you guys adapt when it hit? Did you guys have to transfer, I guess, to online stuff, online training and everything?
Yeah, so we were closed down for about 2.5 months, and during that time we were doing all online coaching. We did some lifestyle stuff online. Our clientele has been with us for a long period of time. So I've had clients for 10 years that are still with us since we opened in 2017. We've had people that are still with us, to this day. So they were, that really helped. It would have been tough to be a gym that opened last year
and not have this retention that you guys have.
Yeah, so we just really made a point to service the members that have been with us for a long period of time.
Well, it's obvious you guys are doing something special. So is there something extra you do to keep the retention going? Because naturally, usually it's just the personality. They obviously just like you. You're a good guy. They're attracted to the person you are and your trainers and everything.
Right.
But is there something you employ to maybe push the retention more?
I think there's a lot of different ways to answer that. We take a lot of different strategies for retention. We celebrate clients' wins.
That's a good one. That's
true. That's something that's really important for people. We take care of people when they come in the door. So every time they come in the door, again, they feel like they're part of a community. Everyone knows their name. Everyone who walks in the door, I know who everyone is. Every trainer knows who everyone is, and the other clients know each other's names and everything like that. And that part of it, the community part of it, is really important. And probably the last part of it is we've really gone away from just the idea of quote unquote working out. And we're trying to get more and more towards the idea of training for something, training with a purpose. And that plays a big role in retention as well, where anyone can go to any gym and work out for 60 minutes and get a good workout in. But we give people specific goals that they're trying to achieve, not just on the scale, not just some metric like that, but objectives to achieve within their training.
So it's a matter of keeping their mind focused on the performance side of things.
Exactly.
Rather than have them get caught up with their own personal walls and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, if you were training a group of athletes, they would be shooting for X numbers, bench, deadlift, squat. We're going to apply the same kind of philosophy to anyone who walks in the door.
Training down. Back to your first point that you made. Start with the athletic program.
Exactly.
And then train down. And I'm learning too that, everything is scalable in the end. So
For sure.
you could take that model, that athletic training model, and always make a change for somebody with an injury or a pre-existing condition. There's always a way to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything can be modified, anything can be changed. Yeah.
I love that, man. And then are you also, I guess, going toward people who are really trying to be athletically inclined, like in sports and shit, like real serious athletes?
We do have a number of serious athletes. We have some clubs that come in together. But the vast majority of our clientele are probably between like 35 and 45 years old. They're working professionals.
My listener base.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, for sure.
But that being said, they are generally like pretty active people. So they want to be golfing. They want to be, doing the things that they want to do like outside of the gym. And the gym is something that's important to them, but it's also a means to an end. Like I want to be able to feel good when I golf. I want to be able to feel good when I go play pickup basketball and things like that. So we have like some athletically minded people, even if they're not necessarily like that's not, the way that they're making a living.
Do they need to have some form of that if they're going to get the most out of training? Some form of that, I guess, athletic drive, for lack of a better definition?
I don't think that it's like 100% a disqualifier if they don't. I think when you come in having some athletic background, like kind of knowing what it means to push yourself, I think that's just maybe a leg up. Like it might make the intake process a little bit easier because they kind of know more what to expect. But people who have never played a sport in their life can still respond really well to having specific goals that they're shooting for and specific things that they want to get out of their training rather than just like, I need to work out so that I don't gain weight or something like that.
Yeah. And that's always the question that every personal trainer, I think, seeks to answer is how do you manage to maintain the client by, I guess, working on the psychological aspect of things, because that's always was my question when I was training.
Sure.
It's like you could put them through a program, but how in the world do you get them to feel the willpower to not get discouraged, not, lose focus or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, absolutely. That's the way to go. Are you guys doing anything outside of, I guess, the immediate workouts that kind of help with that willpower? And that leads into my other question about retention,
Sure, yeah. I think like a big part of it is, how we structure our membership is part of it. So people are committing to a certain number of times per week when they come in and train.
Dope.
So we have them sign up ahead of time for all their classes or all their personal training sessions. So they're paying for 2 or 3 times a week, regardless of if they use it or not. And that in and of itself is a big retention component.
That's true.
Like we don't have people that don't show up for 2 weeks straight because of that reason. We used to do more packages and stuff like that, classes, package of 10.
But they commit. Yeah.
So when somebody is committed to a weekly schedule like that, the retention is kind of like automatically there, more or less. But then cool. the other component of it is honestly having some objective measures that people are shooting for on a regular basis. Like we're allowing them to test their strength levels periodically. Like, and we're
always keeping that front and center.
Absolutely. We have posters on the wall when you first walked in there that have our strength standards laid out. Like, I want you to see where you could be if you put the work in between now and next year or now and next month.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And that's played a big role.
Something to see.
Absolutely.
Just visual, like, well, what can be expected of me? Well, here you go.
For sure. Absolutely.
That's awesome, man.
So giving people things to shoot for that aren't necessarily, again, it's not based on the scale weight. It's not based on something like that. That in and of itself kind of takes away the need for a bunch of willpower. Willpower and motivation are great things.
Yeah.
And it's easy to train on the days that you're motivated and you have like that strong willpower. But those days are often fleeting, so it's like
few between.
Yeah, what do you come back to? Like, what's your principle? What's your driving factor? And if you have some goals laid out of where you want to get to, that makes those things less important.
You'll rebound back to them if you're not having the best day or something like that.
Yep.
Are you guys gonna maintain this fitness, or are you planning to expand in the nearby future?
We are planning to expand in the nearby future.
Yes.
We're definitely planning to expand.
Awesome.
We're getting close to a point here where we're reaching our capacity, in terms of the space that we have and everything like that. And we're hiring 2 new trainers, in the next 6 months or so. So yeah, it's a good
I
trend.
didn't even realize how big it was. You know, I haven't looked around too much, but you got the upstairs.
Yeah.
That stuff in the front there, which is kind of cool. Yeah,
absolutely. And we have it's like 5,300 square feet of gym space out here, and I think we maximize it, as much as we possibly can. We don't have a ton of like set circuit machines and stuff like that generally take up a lot of space. So that's kind of like the functional fitness approach.
That's another gym for another time. Yeah,
exactly.
It's true.
Yeah, we have a lot of open floor space, which allows us to kind of like maximize the amount of people that we have without maybe sacrificing some of those COVID restrictions and things like that.